This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hi, this is Tabs here. Just wanted to leave a message before the podcast starts. We are recording in a hotel room in Cologne, and apologies if you hear a bit of an echo and the sound quality isn't up to the usual standards. Hopefully it doesn't spoil the enjoyment of the show, and enjoy the show, and until the next time, come on you Gunners.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to a very different episode 163 of the Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening, and I hope you're doing very well. And it's very different because we're doing this from a hotel room in Cologne the morning after Arsenal's Champions League round of 16 first leg 1-0 away to Barcelona. Went to buy Leverkusen, but I'm not alone in the hotel room. And joining me today from his bed and looking as gorgeous as ever is Mars. Mars, how are you? And have you enjoyed your trip so far to Germany?
I'm good. I need to just say, Tabs, we are not in the same bed. It sounds like you just said that we were in the same bed. We are not. We are opposite. We are probably as far away in this room that we possibly can be. You're also looking as gorgeous as ever. There's a lovely backdrop behind you of a lovely blue sky in comparison to the rain that we had yesterday. But I'm doing good. And this was my first ever time in Germany, believe it or not. So it has been an experience. Yes. I'm sure we'll get on to how much caffeine I had.
Well, yes, actually. I mean, yes, looking out the window here, Cologne is looking resplendent in a nice sunny sky, not a cloud compared to yesterday, as we said. But yeah, getting here was a bit of an issue, wasn't it? I think for all of us, we all had our travel dramas and fueled with caffeine. So what happened to you on the way here?
So I was meant to fly from Manchester to Brussels and get a train from Brussels airport to Brussels city centre, and then another train from Brussels city centre to Cologne, and then meet you guys in Leverkusen. But the trains were all on strike and cancelled, so I was driving down from Glasgow to Manchester and booked a flight from Manchester to Dusseldorf. A few £100 later, and I was here. I was in Dusseldorf, and the worst part was that exact flight was about 75% cheaper last week, and I wanted to save money and not spend £100 on a flight, and then it was probably about 4 times that. I wouldn't say exactly how much because my parents might be listening to this. But no, it's been good. But yeah, I stayed up all night, so I must give a shout out to the likes of yourself and Alan, and also Matt from the Grove side of things, but also Paul and I don't know what their group is called, but you know there was Gareth and Alex and Tommy and Paul and all of those guys. They were brilliant, and Damien as well. And every time you guys were going up to the bar to get a drink, you were buying me a Red Bull, and I felt my heart beating out of my chest last night when I was trying to sleep, but still alive this morning. But we're all good.
I mean, I came here on the Monday, went to visit a friend in Frankfurt. I thought I'd come here early. And then I had my own trials and tribulations. My train was late. I then jumped on the wrong train. And then I was getting stressed. The everyone was traveling as far away from Cologne as possible. And I had to get back to Frankfurt. And then eventually I got here. But yeah, so it seemed like the trip was not going to be successful. And it turned out that way with the 1-1 draw. But never mind. It's all part and parcel into what we do for Arsenal. So look, in today's place, we will look back at last night's, it's fair to say, disappointing 1-1 draw. Saying that, it was one of the best results of all the English clubs. And then we'll also take a look at those other results from the round of 16 first legs. And then we'll finish with a bit of a preview of this massive Premier League game against Everton on Saturday late. So there you go. So before we get to your highlight and highlights, Moz, the team news came out, an hour and 15 before kickoff, and pretty much full strength, happy with it. Did you want anything different? I mean, Trossard was really the only absentee from the weekend, right back on the bench, kind of fury. We thought he was going to be the major issue from Mansfield, but he was on the bench, so
Yeah, it was good to see California on the bench just after that, and also, we need to always. I'm sure we will talk about Martin Odegaard and if he's been kept maybe for the run-in, because I felt on reflection when we watched the game, I felt like maybe Martin Odegaard was the missing piece. And I know a lot of people will say, that horseshoe of death, and he's always the one that contributes to it. But there was an image going around yesterday of the arrows that I'm sure everyone has seen, and there's what I call the ozone in the middle, and it's just a big hole. And I now referred to that as the Odegaard hole. I think if he was playing, it would have been a different story. But the lineup was as expected. I think it was, yeah, I think as expected. But I'm sure we'll talk about, players didn't perform as expected.
I think and also Martinelli out on that, given Trossard being out injured, you wouldn't put Madureira out there. He doesn't put his out there, Martinelli, and also he loved the Champions League games. I think he was sort of obvious choice. So no dramas there. So go on then, hit me with your highlight if you can find one. Like from last night's game.
I think the highlight, honestly, was just an away game is always really good to go to. I was lucky enough to have a ticket for Mansfield away as well, and I love the experience of going to a different stadium, a different city, and it's all the camaraderie and everything before the game, and everyone's so stressed and on high tension before they come to the location that we're getting to, and then when we're there, it's almost like a relief. So yeah, that was the highlight, and the kind of pub we were in before the game was quite a nice, quaint, pub, and it reminded me of one that we went to with Alan in Madrid away. It was really nice. So yeah, that was my highlight. And then there was a few. Stadium was lovely as well, I must say, and the staff in the stadium, and just getting in was such a good experience, and leaving and not being held back, and no trouble with the Leverkusen fans.
No, it was all very easy, and and you're allowed to drink and stuff like that. So a lot of these European trips, you don't have the food choice was quite nice, and it was all good. And look, we only actually got our tickets on, was it Thursday last week? So it's a very quick turnaround to sort of organise flights, accommodation, and whatnot. So right. I mean, before you get to your low light, I think the highlight is the trip. For me, other highlights, if you look at it, Noni's performance when he came on.
Yeah,
I think he made a difference. Havertz's penalty, bit of narrative around that, and to step up and do that was really good. And so I think those were two of my sort of highlights from the game. So go on, Nick, hit me with your low lights, and then feel free to reel off.
I'm going to give three if that's okay. The first one is a severe lack of halal food options in Germany. I was warned that everything is sausage or schnitzel, and people were right. The rumours were true that there is indeed sausage or schnitzel. Yeah, me. So I had to have a vegan schnitzel, which actually was quite nice. Although I did get the piss taken out of me by a few of the boys in Paul's group for doing so. That was number one. Number two was the fact that at the start of the game, it almost felt like a friendly. And I don't know if you felt this as well, but there was a lot of Arsenal fans in the home end on either side of where we were sat. And it just had that kind of vibe where it was a friendly. But I think after about 20 minutes of the game, the atmosphere just changed, and the Arsenal away fans were in full voice. There was a lot of arguing, though, between a lot of infighting amongst Arsenal fans. I think you guys experienced that as well, but
negativity, I must admit, it surprised me, which I was not expecting to be that vociferous about against.
And people will listen to this and say, "Well, Moz, you are the most negative of them all, and why were you not joining in?" But no, there was just a group, a guy in a couple of rows in front, and he was every single time Eze or Saka or Martinelli had the ball, he was just like, "You're shit, get out of this club." And fans around had to actually tell him, if you put that much energy into singing and supporting them. And he was actually quite close to we were quite low down. I was row 6 or 7. And so if you at a corner or a throw in, the players could probably hear. And so yeah, that was number 2. And then number 3 was I just don't think we played well in general. I think Saka had a really, really poor performance yesterday. I think Eze was, again, just I know you're surprised at that, but I think he plays very nonchalant and very with no real intensity, and it just slows certain phases of the game down. I think Saliba and Gabriel looked a bit. I used the word shaky and ropey with you last night, but I just think they looked like they weren't communicating well with who goes, who stays. I felt like they were both trying to win the head. Yeah, it was just really interesting how I felt like we all had an off day, but we also need to remember this was yet another away game in yet another competition, of which we are in four. And so, there is not an excuse to be made, but there is reasonable justification for the fact that the players are maybe not firing on the cylinders that we expect them to at this point in the season. It's just about ticking over, getting a result, and leaving Leverkusen on reflection this morning with a point, or not a point, sorry, a draw.
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst.
No, it couldn't be. It could have been worse. Given that. No, and these are all fair points. We were having a bit of a discussion as we recorded this last night. It became heated isn't be the thing. Like maybe I had my argumentative, rose tinted glasses on and was them for everything is shit line. So
No, I was not. No, I was not.
No, you made fair points. I mean, on the first one, I had here Saka's performance. He just looked off it, especially in the second half. I think actually he started brightly. I think, I think the first 15, 20 minutes, Brian Leverkusen were leaving quite a lot of space behind Ronaldo, and we were trying to exploit that. And I think as soon as that shut down, because I think they realised it and they didn't leave that open anymore, he's starting to stand up. And he didn't have the space. He wasn't able to get past people. He didn't seem to have that burst. Seemed to be making bad decisions. And look, he lost the ball 14 times yesterday, which is like incredible, like for someone like Saka. And then also you see then what happened when Madueke comes on, who's maybe not as ball secure, but he's just direct and he's fast, and he's just sort of like his one thing is right. I'm running straight into the penalty area. And he did that a few times. So maybe he's fucking in his best, that he considers his best, but he causes defenders trouble. Whereas Saka's more of a stop start. Beat them off the sort of like stopping. Comes inside and tries to do this shiny as a box with left foot. So
do you think he's become too predictable to play? Because I felt when Saka came off and Noni came on, the defenders didn't really know what he was going to do, because I don't think Noni Madueke knows sometimes what he's going to do.
It's not he's predictable. It's that teams will know he's our dangerous player, one of our dangerous players, create anything. So they'll double up on it, and that's what they did. And they sort of had one man go to him and then one man standing off. And so, and I think part of the issue was, in terms of lowlights and in terms of everything you said, is like it was a lackluster performance, and there was no. Sometimes we were lacking in pace, we were passing the ball with intent. So basically, then the ball gets to Saka too late, and the defenders are already there, and you've got two on them, which is hard. So no matter how good you are, it's when you got two on you, one there on you, the one waiting for you to get past, that's really hard. So, and when you're just a little bit off it, it's hard. So you're right. Madueke comes on and he offers a different problem, and he's running at them with pace, and he's sort of pace from the go. Whereas Saka is stop, and seems to defend with stuff like that. So it's I mean, I don't know, was he carrying an injury?
Yeah, because I was just looking at stats this morning, and he lost. He only won 2 out of 8 of his duels, whereas Noni won 3 of 3. And when you look at Saka's heat map in comparison to Madueke as well, Saka was playing so much deeper and Noni was so much more advanced. It was almost like he had the ball almost at the corner flag, didn't he, for most of the time, and there was that kind of trio of Noni, Rice and Timber who they were just kind of passing it and trying to make things happen. There was a couple of chances actually that I think a lot of people will have forgotten that we had with Madueke, where Timber had the ball in the box and could have either crossed it and he back heeled and it just missed, going to And I want to just go back to one other thing that we were talking about in terms of like how the game, and I think this could be a good segue into the game itself. But for me, just thinking back and looking at the stats, it just felt like we had this almost heated discussion last night. I just felt like Leverkusen were not the better team. I think that would be fair to say, because I think both teams. I mean, they had chances, we had chances, but they never really. They had a lot of shots that were. They didn't test Raya basically. I think they only tested him once in the first half, but they just created a lot more. And I don't mean a lot more chances that led to a shot, but they seemed to be attacking a lot more. And I think if we were the team that were doing that, one of those phases or build up play would have led to either a shot on target or a goal or whatever. But we almost let them do that, and that was a worry for me because, yeah, like they had, what was it, 6 shots in comparison to our 3 in the first half, and then 4 in comparison to our 3 in the second. So they just, yeah. But the only problem is, and Alan said this as well last night, that the problem is, they had more shots, but then when you think of the game, it's like, oh well, they never really done anything. But that's just because their attack is not as good as someone else. But if that's another team, if that's like a Man City or a Barcelona, and they're having that many chances and creating that much, then they could score 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, it did seem to be sort of giving up. So I think, like you mentioned that, like I think the what's his name, the caffeine. He's only a young lad, but he seems to trouble Saliba, troubled Gabriel. Sort of just a bit, just they weren't as secure as they normally were. It was a bit of an odd one. So there was nothing massively egregious or massively, oh my god, we've given up like an open chance. So there wasn't huge, but it just felt a bit uncomfortable at times. There was a few times they were running through on us, and you think, good defending in here. I'm just saying, go to the ball, and Gabriel's like trying to cover the runner coming through. There's people coming through the middle and chasing. So there were a few moments where they're breaking through on us, and we just didn't look. It's not secure because look, we let in the one goal from a corner. Yeah, and shit happens, and they Arsenaled us, and we'll talk about that corner. But about that, there was nothing major that we gave up. It just, there was a feeling of that, and you say, statistically we had more of the possession, but again, it's that, is it passive dominance, passive possession, 55% to their 45. The XG was 0.88 for them to our 1.65, but then 0.8 of that is for the penalty, so it was even across there. 10-6 in shots. So I think it was a fairly even game, and it was like it was just a game of a few moments. Nothing really. Again, nothing really. So it was a low incident game, and it was like a couple of key moments, like the beginning of the second half. We have a penalty, and in between, not a lot going. But I think. I mean, what were your thoughts before the game? What were you expecting before the game?
Honestly, I was expecting us. I mean, I know Leverkusen are a good team, but when you look on paper, they don't really have anyone of note that you would be worried about. I mean, you look at the likes of, if we play Everton, for example, this weekend, you look at someone like Dewsbury Hall or a player like that you maybe worry about that would cause trouble. But I don't think Leverkusen have that, and I think, it was one of those games where, yeah. I honestly, I don't know. I think I expected us to win, and I expected us to win comfortably. And I know that's not a given, and it's not a guarantee in the Champions League knockout rounds. I mean, look at the other, as you mentioned, the other English teams. They have not fared very well, especially if you're away from home. For me, I think the overall disappointment is just the performance itself. I think we're lucky to get out there with a draw and go back, and it's only, as the managers always say, it's only half time. In the tie. So, and we're at home for the second leg, which is good, and Leverkusen play against Bayern Munich this weekend, and we play Everton. So
2 tough games for those teams.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how to feel, honestly. I really don't know how to feel.
It's always a bit, draws a bit like me. I think, but I think we can feel happy again that we came into York very close to losing, so to get that penalty in the manner we did. But I mean, they aren't the Leverkusen of 2 years ago that went invincible. Won the double with Saka and Frimpong and Wirtz and everyone else. And so we weren't playing that team, but still away in Germany at home, they aren't no mugs. So I think, yes, I still think we are the better team overall, and the expectation we should go there to win. But also the way we are at the moment, it seems to be just the way we are. We're sort of grinding results out. We're sort of getting through games, even though we're not performing well, sort of getting through games. It just seems to be, okay, the mindset is that it's only half time. You don't want to go in, you don't want to be 2-0 down either, do you? So you don't want to sort of suddenly like lose the tie overall or make it really hard for yourself in the second leg. So you sort of caught between, well, you know, trying to go for it and equalise versus wanting we don't leave ourselves to explode, and then we go 2-0 down. So it's sort of a tight balancing out.
Yeah, because you feel like at one stage when we went 1-0 down, you felt they had a couple of attacks right after, didn't they? They had a couple of, I wouldn't say they were chances, but they did have a couple of attacks, and you thought if they score a second here, it was almost like, I don't think we come back from a 2-0.
Yeah, well, it'll be difficult. I mean, look, we're all thinking we've got the Carabao Cup final next Sunday. We want the game before it to be as easy as possible. So our minds are, this isn't PSV away, you know, and PSV were suffering big time. We went to play them, we took advantage of that. And I think our hope is actually more a case of wanting to make that game as easy as possible to make the Carabao Cup. But that's just unfortunately not the way it works. And we're going to have to play 4 big games, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And yeah, I think just overall we were just too passive, didn't move the ball quick enough. You know, it'd be nice that you talked about the horseshoe of death, and I can sort of understand why we were doing that, because we're trying to maneuver them out of place, trying to create space. But they were really disciplined. They actually held their shape, didn't jump out, and so we had to really try and force those issues. It would have been nice to maybe try a shot or have a go. So, you know, like you had those shots 2 weeks ago, and something can happen. Anything can happen, sort of thing. It can ricochet. You can make a save. So it'd be nice if we tried a few shots. What's also interesting, you mentioned Timber and Madueke. It seems like our right-hand side attack all seems to be about getting Timber into the half space in the box, and wouldn't it be nice to get one of our forwards there, right? Timber's always, he's just making that run in the inside channels all the time. Now, fair play to him, but it just seems to be a bit odd that he's the one, as opposed to, well, I don't know who else could be in there, you know, Eze or Zubimendi. So, but yeah, and the frustrations, a lot of frustrations, I think, come Brighton, Brentford, Wolves, not being great performances.
Yeah,
and so we're it's that juxtaposition, like not great performances, grinding out results, top of the league by 7 points, quarterfinals in FA Cup, you know, just massively still in the Europe Champions League, Carabao Cup final. It just feels a bit of a grind, doesn't it? It just feels really like when we go plowing through mud to get there.
It feels like it's that time of the season where we have 12 players out. It's like it feels like we're almost, it doesn't feel like we're Tottenham, but it feels like we have as many injuries as Tottenham do. And it feels like a slog, and every single game from now until the end of the season will feel like that.
Yeah, it might just have to be like that.
But I don't, this is maybe an unpopular opinion, I just don't think that's very sustainable. I don't think it's going to be sustainable if the players and the fans both think, right, every game's going to be a slog, we just need to get over the line, because we're only just into the Champions League in terms of in how advanced we are in that competition. Like, it's only the round of 16. So if it was the quarter-final second leg or semi-final first leg, you'd think, right, just get a result here. But there's still a lot more games to play, so I don't think we can think like that. And with and that mentality won't help the players, because you look at City, they lost obviously 3-0 last night to Real Madrid, and only certain teams can win at the Bernabeu, obviously. But they likely won't have their midweek games. And we talked about this again last night, and we disagreed about whether it's good or not to have midweek games, or if having that rest is maybe sometimes quite bad for teams, and just playing, you know, once a week. I don't think
it'll be driven by what happened at the end of it. So if they're knocked out, see, it was good. If they get knocked out, then it was a mental issue. So you know, we're the speculation.
But yeah, I just think it's it feels like there's like a I don't know what the word is. It's like a pressure bubble waiting to burst, and it almost feels like the moment we lose a game in the running or in the Champions League and we're knocked out of a competition, for example, and we know. So okay, here's the thing. It's almost like as soon as we know that one trophy can't be won anymore, it will take the pressure off.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there.
Because we're fighting on obviously all four fronts, and it's like, and it feels like everyone's just there's this. It's like we don't speak about it because it's probably never going to happen. But there is chat, and it's funny to think about the quadruple, and we spoke about
The quadruple.
well, but I just think there's, there is murmurs about it, not in the way that fans expect it, but it's just like we are still on for it, and it's very rare to be.
Competitions with
Or
competitions, but
it's very rare to be at this at this point in time. So at this moment of the season, it's still very rare when you get into the middle of March. I always forgot what month it was there. It feels like we've been in like March forever. And so once we get knocked out of a competition, I think
it releases the pressure. City are in all four comps. I don't talking about it. I'm talking about them, but anyway, that's another story. So anyway, that is it. We got through. We got through. We came out with a point. We'll take it, and then let's say we can do the job next week. And nobody talked about the actual game itself, and I tried to look through sort of the key moments, and really there wasn't a huge amount. It was just more about how you felt through the game. And I think it was the first 15. It was Arsenal trying to take advantage of the spaces in behind the fullbacks. And then there was that one chance, was it on the 20th minute? And it's going to be a different story. There was a really lovely move, going from right to left, and then it ends up with Martinelli sort of smashing a shot off the crossbar. Now that goes in, and it's a different game, and it's a bit a bit unfortunate. Could he have done better? Possibly, Then there's a bit of a funny moment, and then again, Big G put his body on the line, like diving across, so it's taking a shot on the sort of upper chest on the chin, which I thought he just got winded, but that's quite a nasty one. Nketiah has a shot, he's just saying that, but not a lot happening in that first half, and then I don't know what they had at half time. Leverkusen, and apparently Arteta talked about the Leverkusen kickoffs with the team, and like straight from the off, and they sort of half asleep, they sort of walks through our defence, get the ball out left, cross it, and then there's a close range header, and I thought this was in, and Ray makes another outstanding save, but unfortunately from the ensuing corner, Andrik, who maybe someone consider was lucky to still be on the pitch, he had the foul, he got the yellow card very early on against Gokares. Maybe he was teetering on getting a second yellow, he didn't quite get it, but corner comes in, Andrew at the back post, free header, gets inside the post. Now, this for me, I think Eze too easily loses his man. I don't know, how did you see it? I'm putting that on him because it was less a free header.
Yeah, but Eze, if you look at the highlights, is being not fouled, but he's jostling with another attacker. I don't think you can put it on Eze. Well, you can, because he's the closest Arsenal player to the ball. However, there's I think I've not seen it back this morning. I watched it last night, and that's when my heart felt like I'd taken speed. Basically, I've never taken speed before in my life, and I never planned to. But I think that's how it would feel with the amount of Red Bull I drank. I mean, can I just... Yeah, can I just... Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm still talking about the... Yeah. I had a triple shot of espresso about 3 hours before I went to my bed. Anyway, yeah, you can't... I don't think you can pin the blame on him. When you watch it back, there's 2 or 3 Arsenal players that don't have a man. I know we don't man mark as such, but we do have players on men, and then we do zonal as well. But Andrik's just allowed to kind of waltz into the back post, and no one really. And you always see it, don't you, with Arsenal? Or maybe because we do the podcast, we maybe notice it more, and we're maybe more, Yeah, but like, they would point, Rice would maybe point to Timber and say, there's a man there, or Saka would maybe point to Suzuki and say there's a man coming behind. But no one did that with Andrick, and it all happened so quick. I don't know how you felt watching it in the stadium, or if you were having your pretzel at that time and coming back in. But from the kickoff, it was just like instant. And did I see right that Arteta had spoke about the fact that he showed?
Yeah, he said he showed.
But is that a true quote? Yeah. Okay.
So look, we were asleep. Saka, I think Eze could have done better, but hey, 1-0. And I think what's interesting about that is like it'd be interesting. Well, it's the first time I think we've gone behind in the Champions League, and we haven't gone behind since Bournemouth away. So it's interesting to see how we react, because we don't often go behind. And yeah, I think again we're a bit on the back foot. Again, Saliba's making a few clearances, Saka's losing the ball, multiple times. And actually then on the 60th minute, Saka off Madueke on, in inverted commas, our best player at the club, but obviously not in the evening. It looked like the right decision, but quite a brave one from Arteta, because you don't expect it, especially, taking like your star boy.
Yeah, it didn't. Like you said earlier on, is it an injury that Saka's, for example, carrying or whatever? But
Why start him when,
yeah, but you need to start.
I think it's decisive. We, often criticise Arteta for this itself, so at least it was decisive. And then, then we started to, again, put more pressure. They started to sit back. They got into their low block, stayed in shape, and it was just, we were doing that bullshit there, probing without really anything much going on.
I almost, sorry, I was going to say, I almost think we also struggled playing against the wing backs, like, because we're not used to that in the Premier League, are we really? No, not, teams don't really.
Not effectively, not as good as that, not as good.
Yeah, but obviously they do that week in, week out. I don't think teams in the Premier League do. I think they change in comparison to, who they're playing. But I think Leverkusen do that a lot. And their left wing back, was it Grimaldo?
Yeah, he's very good.
He was.
I didn't notice him that much, but he's a dangerous player.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, I was just looking on like the heat map, and for just various Arsenal players, and you look at Grimaldo's heat map, and it was just insane. Like it is defending, it is attacking, and it was all just dark red, up and down, dark red. Yeah, I think he had the most touches of anyone in the game, and then even Poku, who's their right wing back, he was so quick, and I think he defended well against Martinelli when he had to. So. Yeah, I think we just struggled to play against that formation as well, and
right also sort of three at the back.
Yeah,
With wing backs and stuff. We struggled. The only team we haven't struggled at play three at the back is Tottenham. We then made a couple of substitutions. Gyökeres off, Havertz on, and then Eze off, Jesus on. And then soon after that, I think our sort of biggest chance. I know. I've looked back at this. Is Martinelli, crosses over, and Timber's there. I just think he can't get over the ball. People say, he feels like he should have done better. It feels like he just couldn't get over it. If he's like 2 yards further back, I think he gets it, but he just couldn't get over it. And then not long after, 86th minute, Madueke, as we talked about, drove into the box. Everyone and fouled, and the ref points to the spot. Now, I think it's one of those ones that is staying really on-field decision. So if the referee doesn't get it, it won't get overturned by the VAR and vice versa. I've looked at this, and everyone's saying it's soft, but there's a bit where on the follow-through, he sort of sits on Madueke's leg. Now, Madueke makes sure he goes down, but he's for me, it's a penalty because he's impeded the player in the penalty area. I don't know, what do you think?
Soft. But yeah, he's a penalty doesn't always have to be a rash challenge that if someone's breaking a leg in the box. It can just be if you even, pull the shirt back very gently and it throws a player off balance or whatever. So soft. But I think if it was given against us, I would be a bit like, ugh.
Yeah, but you understand what it's a Champions League.
You would understand. It is a Champions League penalty. Like, you get Champions League handballs, and that's a Champions League penalty. Can I just go back and ask about the subs and what you thought about the timing of the subs? Did you think, because I felt like the subs came a bit too late to impact the game the way we wanted. I think if he brought off obviously Saka in the 60th minute, which is fine, and then it was another 15 minutes for Kai to come on, and then another kind of, I think it was 10 minutes for Jesus to come on. So I just think, I don't know.
Nice to see how it's on a bit earlier. Jesus, I can take or leave it with his. But yeah. I think we were crying out maybe a bit earlier, 70th minute. Actually, one thing that frustrates me, like with substitutions, that they're not ready. No, I want you on now. No, I don't need to take my tracksuit off.
Yeah, but I think, and I see that. I see people talk about that, but that's not, the manager does not care because he knows that's what's going to. So, like, for example,
So now it's still another 3 minutes of week.
But if Arteta wanted to make a sub for Kai in the 70th minute, he would have told him in the 67th minute to go and get ready. So he wanted to bring him on in the 75th minute, and so that's why he told him to.
I would like to see Havertz on a bit earlier because again, what he brings to the game. I think Gyökeres feeds off service, not getting much service. Havertz, he goes and gets it, comes deep. He offers something different, and look. He offers something, and he's the one that takes the penalty. The keeper goes the right way, but he hits it nicely into the corner. I think the keeper gets a little bit of a fingertip, but I think it's a good penalty with plenty of power to beat him. I think we're all a bit, I think when we're in the stadium, we were side on, so we didn't realise how close, and then we look back and oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a bit like, wow, that was a bit too close for comfort. But,
and it also felt like yesterday went by. The second half went by so quick. Like, you look up at the time and you think, oh my God. And so, yeah, I just feel like subs could have been made a wee bit earlier. And also I seen a tweet this morning about someone saying they would love to see a front three of Eze, Havertz and Saka.
If we're going to Eze on the left, it's one of these things. Says he's done it once, did it against Villa, and he's not seen it again. Arteta's very stubborn like that. I think maybe we should say, Trossard isn't earning his place at the moment. I don't think Martinelli and Gyökeres work. It would be cool to see it. I think maybe also the fact that he just hasn't had the players all fit at the same time to probably do that.
And if we win the league or the Champions League, for example, with the team, you would argue not firing on all fronts, for the majority of the season like we did in 22-23 or 23-24 when we're almost free flowing and scoring, and it would be almost a better achievement because you think the players they're not even on they're not even on form this season, and we're still there.
So there was an age between the penalty, the VAR check, I think, and look,
I think they were trying to muck up the spot as well, the penalty spot, and I don't think the 4 minutes was due to a VAR check. I think the 4 minutes was the referee trying to get rid of the keeper, which is why the Arsenal fans were trying to get him to show the keeper a card, and then he'll move, and he never.
And what did you think? The ref, I thought, was very bizarre. Made some odd decisions, like gave some odd yellow cards.
He booked. Yeah, but not. I know you're talking. Yeah, so I know you were going to mention the Zubimendi one and then the Havertz one at the end. When I've seen the clip of that, but he was almost trigger happy to. He almost yellow carded the good tackles and not the bad ones. It was bizarre, yeah.
Because these are not the Zubis and you have it. Imagine like he gets in the couple, and then he's out for a game. I don't mind if you're getting. I don't mind if you earn a yellow card, but stupid yellow cards for the pointless. You get yellow card for good tackles, Anyway, Havertz puts it away. And he said that the time between the penalty whistle and the penalty kick felt like an eternity, of course, but in the end, you have to be mentally present in those moments. I know the stadium well. I've taken many penalties from this spot. That's why I felt good. Another big task awaits us next week. So it was a bit good for the narrative. I was very confident he was going to score, but still had to do the job. And that penalty was in the 89th, 90th minute. Was the Arsenal's latest penalty goal in a major European game since Lord Nicholas Bednar scored against Porto in 2010. And then we're on track with this ex-players scoring against their old clubs. So it's like Moreno scoring against Newcastle, Rice against West Ham, Eze against Crystal Palace, and Havertz this year against Chelsea and by Leverkusen. So look, 1-1, still unbeaten in the Champions League, so still possible to go invincible, win the Champions League, and our trophy will be gold.
Could you imagine? Yeah, that would be quite a nice touch, wouldn't it? To give it.
So that'd be great. So any other performances, any other players you want to call out? Or?
No, I did mention about Eze's nonchalant nature. I think the way that he plays is very.
That's his style.
Yeah, it's his style, but I just don't. I love him as a player. Obviously, he's I've got him on the back of my shirts and stuff, and I think he's a cracking player, and he was for Palace. He's not a bad signing. I just think he hasn't gelled this season, and I think it's fair to say I watched an interview with him, actually, just digressing slightly. I watched an interview with him, and I think it was New Balance in Nando's or something. I think it was somewhere anyway. So random. And he was saying that the jump from Palace to Arsenal is humongous. And then he referenced it again in the Football London Awards last week. He won an award for his Eze Foundation that he does, and he mentioned to interviewer again. And I just thought, that's interesting that he's saying that twice, 6 months apart.
Well, Rice said the same thing. Just coming from West Ham, the amount you have to learn, the amount you have to take on.
Yeah.
The amount.
Because you go from just like trying to survive and maybe win a few games a season to winning every single week as a non-negotiable.
And also just dealing with Arteta's tactics.
Yeah.
Position.
So but when he's playing, I feel like he's he has this like this. I'm not saying he's lazy, but he has that way that he plays. It's just very slow and
very sort of like nonchalant type thing.
Yeah, and I just don't know if that works when everyone else around him is just so.
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's like a contrast. Maybe he doesn't get stressed by it. He's not. I think the good thing is he doesn't seem to be hiding anymore. He's getting more involved. He's trying to do more. So I think he's just missing that bit of final action. And as if the opposition are allowed to play, they can nullify our effect, and maybe you just want to see a bit more. But yeah, no, I think I think all round, I think no one really, apart from Madueke, no one really stood out. No one was brilliant. No one was overly poor, and it was just one of those things. But anyway, 1-1, half time, taken to the carpet next week. I'm gonna smash them. So look, before we look at the other Champions League games and the Everton, we'll go through your 3-word reviews, and we just pick out a few of the favourites. So on Blue Sky, we had Hans Lejeune, who sent me a picture of Keep Off the Grass, and his 3-word review was no ball games. So I think that's a reflection of how we were playing. We weren't playing much with the ball. Mr. C. Laguna said we got out of jail. On Threads, we had Robin's Durban saying only half time. Yeah. WTFI _Jordan, none is decisive. He was. Ian, Ask said the front line is worrying. It was last night. There's no one taking the ball by the horns, and really we need someone to sort of start firing, just be that reliant goal scorer. We still seem to be this egalitarian. Let's just squeeze the goals.
Egalitarian. Wow. Egalitarian. That was not a word I expected to hear looking at you in your bed.
DJ Goodcat, uninspiring all round. Yeah. Robin Hood 78, flat, unmotivated, clueless. Bit harsh, but yeah, everyone's got their opinion. Disjointed Guild didn't deserve that. I don't know, whatever. Huge Waters must work harder. Yeah, I think we can put a bit more effort in. X, Dubs for Sam, release the handbrake. Yes, please, Arteta, let them go.
I'm sure he said that before.
Is he? I'm sure he had. Well, and there we go. It's a running theme for this season. It's that measure of control versus, I would say, chaos, but
yeah,
momentum, a bit more,
It's that lack of balance and urgency that we lack.
Yeah. It's again, it's a two-legged tie again. He's treated as an individual game. We go from, but we'll see. on TikTok, Zara Ransom, we didn't lose. Was spotted. I love this name, Scrotum. It's slow sideways, Saka question mark. Romp down, must pass quicker. Yeah. Declan Murphy 204, Lacklustre 8. Lucky. Yeah, I guess so. Michael Bailey 1925, a hard watch. Mark Frank thinks we got lucky. Gary Coombs 901, a good draw. And Clocko, who I'm assuming is a Liverpool fan, says boring Arsenal. And on to the Grove WhatsApp group chat. Andy goes, we'll take it. Normie, own medicine tasted. And Daljit might be frauds. he thinks our position is maybe a bit false, but there we go. So thank you for sending those through. We do appreciate.
I didn't even have a chance to send mine, and it would have been no halal schnitzel. Yeah.
Okay, so look, a 1-1 draw away in Germany turns out to be the best result out of all the English clubs, because like last night, was it Chelsea went decided to go full Tottenham, and you just never go full Tottenham, and lost 5-2 away to Paris Saint-Germain after being in sort of a relatively good position at 2-2, and they just sort of lost it towards the end of the game. And yeah, you love to see it. Man City had one job, just not to be shit, and then they go and put a performance like that. Where's Donnarumma of last year? He goes and does that performance. Also, I think Real Madrid played better than expected.
Yeah.
And their form and injuries. I think 2-0 were better, 3-1, but still, it's not high enough for me, thankfully, because we're all. I think, well, I'm of the position I want Man City to be playing Bayern Munich after the international break, to give them more games in and around our game when we played them at the Etihad. So they're not out of it, and thankfully Vinny Jr. missed that penalty. So at 3-0, they sort of have to sort of go for it, and they play this game before their Carabao Cup final. And if they get 1 or 2 up, the likelihood is it will go to extra time if you're trying to come back from a 3-0 deficit. So maybe it works in our favour. And Tottenham, did you see the Tottenham game? Did you manage to see the highlights?
I was, yeah, so I was very pleasantly surprised when I'd seen that on a group chat. I think someone said 3-0, and I looked at FOTMob and I thought, oh, Tottenham. So I went downstairs and turned it on and watched on the TV, and that was brilliant. But it obviously shows you that the English teams didn't fare well. And what's interesting is, there were one of my mates who's like a Celtic fan and does not like English teams or English football at all. He was like, oh, what, Premier League? You're having a laugh, just all this nonsense about how the Premier League's the best league in the world. But it just shows you, I think it's and also you look at the group stage of the Champions League. I think it's because you play, okay, not easy teams, but some of the teams you play are not as good as Premier League quality teams. But then when we do go into the knockout rounds and we go into the last 16, it's like you're playing against Real Madrid, you're playing against PSG, you're playing against your Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, so you're playing against teams who are a lot better all of a sudden, and then it's almost like a struggle because of that. So
I mean, I think during the group stage, early stage was English teams are battle-hardened with literally the Premier League from day one, go, and I don't think the teams on the continent are so battle-hardened. So I think we always perform better during the winter or autumn months. But when it comes to now, I think PSG were given a week's rest.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich have got the league sewn up. The Spanish league is not as intense.
So have we. We've got the league sewn up anyway. We're 7 points clear. The league's done.
But it's not, again, every game, you're playing Brighton away, you're playing Brentford away, you're playing, we've got Everton at home. On the continent, they don't have these hard games week in, week out, these challenges. So I think they come into the knockout phases a lot fresher. And I think I haven't got it with me there, and I saw this, the amount of games we played compared to these other teams, we're like all the English teams are 48, 47, 46 games. And then you look at like the likes of, PSG or Bayern Munich, it's like in the low 40s and even some in the high 30s. So that they always come to the end knockout season in the Champions League with a massive advantage over the Premier League clubs, because it's just so hard to battle on front. So look, even at Liverpool losing away to Galatasaray. So it just shows, before Christmas or before the New Year and after New Year, this is when these top teams start to shine. And yeah, Tottenham was hilarious, and how Tudor wasn't sacked at half time. The fact that he's still in the job, and actually, I started as a guilty pleasure listening to a Tottenham podcast. And it is he has to go. He has to go. Harry's still there. Don't care. Just he has to go. He's lost the club. He hasn't got the club. He does, and all the rest of it. So, but yeah. So again, long may that continue. And so yeah. So it's going to be interesting next week. And as I said, hopefully City sort of fight their way back into it. And as for the others, I think Liverpool should get through. But it's going to be difficult for Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle 1-1 against Barcelona, and going to get a bit like us, a late penalty for Barcelona. Who knows what sort of Barcelona team will turn up? You can imagine goals there, so I think that could go either way. But a big shout out, and I think this is the one that impacts us most. Bodo Glimt winning 3-0 at home to Sporting Lisbon, and their last 5 results have been 3-1 at home to Man City. 2-1 away to, I think that's Atletico Madrid. 3-1 at home to Inter Milan. 2-1 away at home. 2-1 away to Inter Milan. 3-0 at home to Sporting Lisbon. If we get them in the next round, they're no mugs.
No, they're not. They're not. But I don't even want to think that far ahead. I would rather just look ahead to the next game that we have against Everton, as opposed to look at the next Champions League game that we need to then also beat Leverkusen first, because you see Bodo are no mugs. I don't think Leverkusen are no mugs either. And I can see if we don't, and anything could happen. It's a one-legged, it's basically now a straight shootout. 90 minutes of football. It's tied. There's no away goals, which is good. No away goals anymore, is there, in the Champions League? So, it's a straight shootout, 90 minutes, and at the Emirates, and I'm not going to be there, but I'm sure you guys will.
You expect us to do it, but yeah, it's not going to be easy. So we have to.
No, it's not going to be like the Leverkusen that we played in pre-season.
Yeah, it's a few seasons back, but you did mention coming up this weekend, 5:30 Saturday UK time. We have a massive game before the Leverkusen second leg against Everton. It's going to be a difficult game, but it's really important, I think, for the title challenge. And it's interesting, we don't play another Premier League game after this until Saturday, the 11th of April. So almost a month. So if we win this, we go 10 points clear, because City play West Ham away afterwards and put the pressure back on them. But even if we're 7 points clear, it's another game ticked off. It's sense of security. You don't want to be spending the next 4 weeks with a bad Premier League result, having to play Champions League, FA Cup, and Carabao Cup final. Then there's the international break. Have that on your mind.
Yeah.
And as I said, they're not an easy team. David Moyes will come in and set out to sort of make life difficult. They always seem to be challenging games. So with that in mind, what are you looking forward to? Not looking forward to as far as the Everton games come from.
I'm looking forward to Moisey giving Arteta the 3 points, because they're best mates. No, I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to just because this is going to be the last, as you say, the last Premier League game for a while. Like it's so weird to think that when you're almost, it's like the season is just about to finish, and it's like, well, hang on, there's still 7 games to go, but after this, but they're not gonna. It's not gonna be for well. So I'm looking forward to just playing a Premier League game before City, put some pressure on them. You don't know how they're going to be. Obviously, they played away in Madrid, and it's interesting. Did every English team played away?
Sure. So they're the only one that had to.
Oh yeah, of course.
For the
Yeah, but if you finished above the team that you are playing, you would have played away. So then technically the whole thing about we're second leg first advantage for Arsenal. It also happens
through to the final. So whereas if then another team were higher, then
yeah, of course. So sorry, looking forward to just that and putting some pressure on City. We could potentially, I don't think City lose to West Ham.
Okay, and you don't know what sort of City's anyway. Kev was talking about them mentally not with it at the moment. So
Yeah,
chances are they'll beat West Ham.
yeah. Chances are they'll beat West Ham, but even so, we could potentially, if they nick a draw like Forest did, it could extend the gap. We just need to make sure we win. Not looking forward to Everton. It feels like a tough game. It just feels like one of those games that we could have done without. It would have been nicer playing against a team like Burnley or,
Just Burnley.
or Tottenham. Yeah, can we like ask the league for special dispensation just to every game from now to the end of the season, let's just play Tottenham. Yeah, and if they win one, they get to keep their manager. But yeah, even like a Leeds sort of like a it just feels like Everton's a tough game. They're no mugs, they're eighth in the league. They've played well. Their recent form as well. They won the last two games, and so yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I think a lot of fans yesterday were, around around the ground, and when you're hearing them speak about it, it's like, oh, it's like a formality but I don't think it is at all. I think Everton are a good team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for. To be honest, there's not much I'm looking forward to, mainly apart from going potentially 10 points cleared, putting the pressure on City. But
come on, Tabs, you're going to be at the game.
I'm going to be happy to be at the game, but I feel like, given how we're playing, how stressful these games are, how potentially difficult Everton can be, it's hard to not be nervous and a little bit anxious. And in terms of not looking forward to it, it's a difficult, stressful game. Even though last night's game wasn't great, I was never really stressed. I was never I had that, the two-legged tie. I felt we were going to get back into it. Never really stressed, but the Premier League is different. And you can imagine the crowd is just going to be so antsy, so impatient. And if we're not winning, or if we're playing poorly, or things aren't going our way, you need the crowd behind you. You need that sort of mentality, and we want to bring that spirit from Brighton. You know how everyone felt after 1-0, and then City is drawn, and it was a real. It wasn't exactly backs against the wall, but they did play human respect. But we were really, stoic defensively, and thou shalt not pass, and so on, and really bad, and it sort of brought that togetherness. And then you want all the nonsense BS talk in the press and the narrative about Arsenal boring and Arsenal this, that. We need to have that siege mentality. So we need to everyone bring that together and be behind the team, and big fuck you to everyone else. We're going to win this, and we don't care what you think. Type mentality. We need to bring that to this game. And I hope we do bring that, rather than the antsy, impatient, why are you doing this? And you were saying it yesterday. The funny thing yesterday was the guys around you, the guys around us were moaning and whinging and shouting, complaining. And then we equalised. We're by far the greatest team that's ever seen it. And the irony was not lost on me. But that's just random for you, and it's fine. So, I mean, in terms of our lineup, saying again, full strength, or do you think he does something different with Eze and Havertz?
I think he start. I honestly, I don't know how you can continue to. I'm not blaming Mikel Arteta. Well, maybe I am, but I don't know how you can continue to play Victor Gyökeres when, and I know we say Victor Gyökeres, and he scored 15 goals this season, but I just think he could have scored so many more in the positions he was in yesterday. When the cross comes in front of the penalty spot, he's behind it, and when it's behind the penalty spot, he's in front of it, and it's just he's just not there yet. And I know he scored 2 against Tottenham, and then he scored 2 against Sunderland.
The rest of the team just inconsistent. You don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's that inconsistency, but it's also it's almost if you're Arsenal's striker, if you're Arsenal's number 9, then you have a lot of responsibility on your hands, because no one else is scoring around you. Madueke's not had a goal for but you know what I mean, he's when I say Trossard's had 1 or 2 goals in the last 20 games,
banging him in, you can rely
on. And that's the issue, and so you almost need that from your striker. So I think we go with a lineup of, we'll go with the same. I think Calafiori comes in for Hincapié, just to give him some rest. I don't know about Ben White. It's a shame that Ben White's not. I would say Timber's probably one of the most solid performers this season. Does he change both fullbacks? Probably not. So I think he sticks with Saliba, Gabriel, Timber. I think he plays a midfield of. It depends on obviously if Odegaard's even. I don't think he's.
Is saving him for the Carabao Cup final?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'd asked yesterday just in Germany to see if there was any ITKs, and yeah, that's what the thing is. So I think he'll play again, then maybe with Zubimendi, Rice, and Eze, and then play Saka, Trossard, and Havertz. I would like to see that. I think I want to see something different. I want to see Havertz from the start. If he's fit now to play, if he's fit to play 20 minutes, 30 minutes here, and then start against Mansfield and stuff.
So he did start yesterday, maybe. I mean, he says he's fit and maybe.
Yeah,
maybe he's saving him for this game. It's a tough one because we've had this like, he comes on and then he's now for 20 minutes and he's injured. So yeah, I like you. I think 50-50 with Nkapio and Calafiori. Again, how fit is Calafiori? From that maybe Nkapio starts, but you bring on Calafiori, the same with Timber and Rice, and then you bring on White, a bit through. Yeah, Eze starts in the middle, and then Havertz up front. Do you go Madueke or Saka? Do you sit there? No, Saka's still a star boy. You get him out of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Saka had one. Well, he had a very poor game by his standards, but that's just because of the standards we set for him. Well, I was looking just earlier before that, let's take Mansfield out because he only played 10 minutes in that game. But then you look at, and I know you hate FOTMob and the ratings and stuff, but you look at, and Brighton, he scored the only goal of the game. Chelsea, he played well. He was 7.1. Tottenham 7.3, even though he never scored or assisted in that game. Wolves, he was man of the match for that game. And then Wigan, he played 45 minutes and yeah. So, and then when you look even further than that, before we played Kyra, and when he was benched, Man U, Inter, Forest, Chelsea, he was putting in good performances. So
there's one thing taking him off as a substitute when he's playing. There's one thing not starting him.
Yeah. And you look at who is it that's happened to recently? That I can't remember. There's a Tottenham goalkeeper, yeah, but there's players who maybe don't. If you don't start, then it's like, okay.
No, it would be bizarre. No, I reckon they start. And if Trossard's fit, you play him. If not, maybe you put Madueke on the left hand side. So plenty of options there and plenty to think about. And okay, let's go 5 minutes. You got to train to catch this. Wrap this up. So in terms of Everton, you alluded to, yeah, they're in 8th place, so they're sort of battling out with Brentford and Liverpool for the sort of like Eurobars position there. Like, played 29, 43 points, scored 34, let in 33. And their last 5 is sort of lost, 1-1. Like they sort of lost at home to Bournemouth, lost at home to Man United, but then beat Newcastle away 3-2, beat Burnley at home. What's incredible is their away record is actually pretty good. They won 7 away, drawn 3, lost 4, scored 14, scored 16, let in 14. So actually their away record is better than their home record. Now, granted, they're in that new stadium, so it always takes a while to get going. But so again, their away form shows that there will be tricky opponents. They got some great players in terms of Darren Dewsbury Hall's doing well. Ilian Ndiaye is a bit creative, but they'll be organised, disciplined. They'll be hard to break down. It's going to be one of these. It's going to be a familiar story. We've been there, we've seen it, we've done it. They're going to try and cause us some problems with getting the ball over the top. Any free kick in there, halfway in their half, is going to be most probably pumped long by Pickford just to put it into our box. Create havoc with their big midfielders and their big central defenders. So it's the likes of Barry. So look, we are the better team. We should be winning this. But again, it's just going to be, I think, another gnarly grind out win. It'd be nice if we score early and then get 3-0 at half time and just there's no win in it. And even the last few results, we beat them away 1-0 this season, but that was a Gilchrist penalty. Away last year was 1-1. Home last year was that 0-0 Dyche ball. God, that's a game. Before that, 2-1, 1-0. So the last time it was actually 4-0. Back in March 2023 was the last time we scored a hatful of goals against them before 1-0, 2-0. So yeah, not easy. Not looking forward to this at all. What's your predictions?
3-1 Arsenal. Yeah, I'm going to go with my usual. I think, go with 3-1 Arsenal. I think we're due a nice performance. We're due one of those kind of games, and I think Arteta will want to send a message out to, the fans, the opposition teams, and stuff that we're not going to play a league game for a while. Let's end things. In inverted commas, end things as they are just now, with a nice win, so we can pick up where we left off when we come back after the international break and whatnot when we face Bournemouth.
I'm 1 or 2-0. I think it's just going to be a horrible 1-0, 2-0, tense, maybe like a late goal type thing. So if I'm going to put my hat on it, I'll put 1-0 to the Arsenal. Let's be that team for the rest of the season. I'll take it. 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Still in bed, in our own individual beds.
Yeah, and I woke up, so I think I fell asleep, and it's funny. I chuckled to myself last night because you're just like me. You have to go on your phone before you go to sleep. So seeing the bright light like shining in your face, but then yeah, and poor Alan was next to us, and he was just trying to sleep, and I think the phone was just. I put my headphones in to watch a few videos. Not like I won't mention Andy in that regard. That's just long story.
Was snoring.
No, it wasn't. And then this morning I woke up. I think my Whoop told me that I woke up at like 7:30, and all I could hear was the pitter patter of your keyboard on the on your laptop, and you were obviously typing notes for the podcast or whatever. And then you came in. I was awake, but you came in. You burst open the curtains and you shouted, "Good morning, sunshine!" And I think I asked you for a gun to use on myself. But we're here. I'm awake now, about to head back to Manchester, and then got a 4.5-hour drive ahead of me back home. So life is good, and it's all for the Arsenal. So
The Arsenal. Well, look, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed listening to that. Thank you for agreeing to do that this morning, Cosmos. I don't think you had much of a choice, to be honest. Thank you for your 3-word reviews. And look, you can follow us on Blue Sky, Threads, Insta, TikTok, YouTube, and on the podcasts, Apple and Spotify, all of that under at The Grove AFC. Next pod will be a joyous one post Everton, second leg against Leverkusen, like on Sunday. So keep an ear out for that. And if you enjoyed what we do, or even if you don't, still leave us a nice little comment, rating, 5-star review. It does a bit of a subscribe. It does help the algos, and it does help get us into the ears of those less fortunate than yourselves. And if you're still listening, thank you. Well done. Give yourself a nice pat on the back. And until the next time, come in, you Gunners.